great outcome. So thank you for coming. It's the middle of a day, and you came over here to the Texas Medical Center. A lot of you have asked me about parking, and about parking and about paying for parking or whatever. And I just want to thank you for your donation, your generous donation to the Texas Medical Center. I'm just kidding. We have parking validation for you on the way out. Don't forget to stop and get it. But if you'd like to make a donation to the Texas Medical Center, we're going to let that happen too. So thank you for turning your ringers off. The first thing that I think is important that we do today, because you're going to see this common theme all the way through, is we want to thank and recognize our veterans. Our veterans. All of them. I don't mean this in an embarrassing way, but please, if you are a service member, veteran, you've served this country, will you please stand for just a moment and let us thank you for just a moment. Thank you. I think what you're going to find out as we go forward today is a lot of the things that have been worked on, a lot of the collaboration that you've seen, a lot of the energy that's united a lot of people has been behind providing better medical care for our service veterans. Now that helps everyone out. And so that's been a uniting force in getting some of these things done that we are getting done. Welcome to the 2022 Vyripharm Public Health and Public Safety Legislative Reception. That's a mouthful, right? So break that down. Vyripharm is in the business of making safe medical procedures and unifying it across the United States and state to state, so we've got some standards for health and human services. Okay? Right now in some areas there are not good standards and people get hurt with these things. They're not getting product that is meeting the health and human services safety standard, and they're having some damage from it, and we're about bringing that into code and codifying some of that. So the first thing I'd like to do is recognize some of our elected officials that have arrived today. Of course, everybody knows Congressman Crenshaw. You're going to be hearing from him later today. We also have a elected official in the room that if you've been in the Texas Capitol and you're with BIZPAC, you probably have been in her office many times while she played sandlot football quarterback and called plays and sent us for a button hook and a round and out and a flag and a post. Right? Representative Valerie Swanson. We are very, very grateful. There are several other representatives that got actually called out to funerals today. I think we've got I can't hear you. Brian Harrison. Thank you, Representative Brian. Yes, Representative Brian Harrison. Thank you for pointing that out. Lacey Hull was called to a funeral today, and I think Crystal Walker's here representing her. Representative Mays Middleton, I guess he's senator-elect, is on the bow of a tugboat in a pipe-eye sailor, the man suit, with the battleship Texas going down the gap. I'm kidding, he's not wearing a pipe-eye, the sailor man suit. But we did kid him and tease him with that because he is not making this event today while they bring Battleship Texas down to Galveston. I'm naming off a few folks that have been instrumental in getting legislation in Texas passed that has been helpful to the Vyripharm mission of public safety. So I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to our first speaker. I think it's going to be Dr. Emily Reiser of the Texas Medical Center, Innovation Center that you're in, and I want to point this out to you. This facility was the old Nabisco facility. Y'all remember that? Anybody lived here long enough? When you drive by, you could smell the vanilla wafers or whatever it was, right? This was a dream that we had 30 years ago at the Houston Technology Center and Houston Angel Network, working with the Greater Houston Partnership. And it took a while, but we finally got enough steam behind it. They bought the old Nabisco plant, they completely renovated it, and like the folks that just got off this tour, there's thousands of medical technologies and inventions that are happening, coming out of here, in progress at various stages, and like we heard from Dr. Hamilton, at least 30 or more have already gotten into the public domain for use by doctors to help us all. That was the purpose of building this center. This is a dream come true. I was involved in all of that early planning. I was involved in all that begging, pleading, and arguing to get the thing done. And there was a lot of resistance in a lot of places, but we finally prevailed upon them somehow, and we were able to get this thing done. So anyone that was involved in that, I think Bruce remembers those days. Anyone that was involved in that knows how far this has come along, and I hope that now we're going to hear from Emily Reiser, and I hope that she'll speak to some of that for just a moment.
Thank you very much, Joe, for the introduction, and welcome all of you to the Texas Medical Center. Today we're in the Innovation Factory, lovingly referring to our history as the old Nabisco Cookie Factory, where people could smell Ritz crackers, Oreos, and Lorna Doones being made here on site. We love to joke that one day we'll find a closet full of Oreos, but so far that hasn't happened yet. So if that does happen while you're on the building, we would love to hear about that. But all kidding aside, we are really delighted to have you all with us today for this event in concert with Vyripharm. The Texas Medical Center hosts groups like these in order to bring together people for collaboration that has a focus on healthcare, life science, research, education, and more. The Texas Medical Center is really dedicated to this mission. We bring together people in rooms like this, but we also build infrastructure like the one that you're sitting in today. And as someone who was trained here in the medical center, I did my PhD at Rice, I had a molecule for cancer immunotherapy that I wanted to see come into fruition. But at the time, we didn't have the people, the programs, and the infrastructure to be able to do that. In a couple of years' time, the Texas Medical Center will be a place where one can develop a molecule for a cancer immunotherapy, all the way from just an idea to a 200-plus person company delivering care to patients. And it's that vision that we're carrying forward here at the Texas Medical Center. Our team here in the Innovation Factory is really focused on innovation commercialization, helping and supporting entrepreneurs that are coming out of Houston, as well as recruiting talent from around the world to come and build this community together with us. So we're delighted that you've chosen the Texas Medical Center as your destination today, and that we're gathering together in this room. It's one of our core missions to be able to do this as well. So we hope you have an amazing event today, focusing on the health and the future that all of us get to be a part of. And we look forward to connecting with any of you that have any questions about how we can be supportive along the innovation and commercialization journey for all Texans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are very grateful for this facility. If you know of early stage biotechnology, early stage medical, this is where they need to be. This is where they'll get the help that they need. This is where the leaders are, and there are quite a few leaders in the building in different companies right now. I want to bring your attention to something that some of you know about. There have been breakthroughs in the Texas legislature to allow cannabinoidal therapies that have had miraculous effect on certain conditions. And we have somebody here today who has firsthand knowledge of this. You may have seen her on the internet or interviews on television. She's also an appointee by the Texas governor, the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. And she's the mother of Julie Taylor. Please welcome Lora Taylor.
Distinguished guests, good afternoon. My name is Lora Taylor, and I am the mother of a 40-year-old daughter diagnosed with Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, which is a type of refractory or intractable epilepsy. Now, intractable simply means that is not well controlled with medications. My daughter, Julie, in her 40 years, has been on every medication that's prescribed, thank you, except for two. We have done the ketogenic diet. We have had the vagus nerve stimulator to control seizures implanted for 21 years. She is still taking 6 anticonvulsants at the very highest levels despite weighing only 74 pounds. From a self-help standpoint, Julie cannot feed, bathe, toilet, or dress herself. She does not communicate, but only with her eyes. She can answer yes, no questions. If the answer to her question is yes, then she'll raise her eyebrows. On a good day, she can walk 6 to 10 steps if her weight is being fully supported. She's primarily transported in a wheelchair. From 2013 to 2018, she suffered from chronic urinary tract infections, which for 5 years increased her seizures and disrupted her sleep. The side effects of 3 of those anticonvulsants caused suicidal level depression, and one of them caused what they called obtrusive homicidal thoughts. This for someone who's never seen anything but the Disney Channel. On September the 11th, 2018, 4 years ago, Julie began receiving CBD oil through the Texas Compassionate Use Program. In the 30 days before she began CBD, she had experienced 95 seizures, lasting anywhere from 2 minutes to 25 minutes. In the first 30 days after she had started CBD oil, she had 2 seizures that lasted only 10 seconds. I'm going to say that again because that's just pretty stunning. In the 30 days before she started CBD oil, she had 95 seizures lasting from 2 to 25 minutes. And in the first 30 days, she had only 2 seizures lasting 10 seconds. That's pretty miraculous. Thank you. In the last 4 years, her seizures have continued to be dramatically reduced. We rarely see seizures, and when they do, they're usually 15 to 45 seconds, or if she is having a genuine seizure, we know, whoops, something is wrong, we need to get her to a doctor and get checked out. Now to the side effects. Let's talk about spasticity first. As anyone who's ever been in a wheelchair knows, you have major problems with contractures and spasticity. She was on baclofen oral medication and Botox injections every 3 months in her legs and her arms and even in her jaw just to be able to relax, because most of the time she spent in a fetal position. In the first month of taking CBD, her arms and her legs were down by her side, resting comfortably. So she is no longer on baclofen or Botox. As her seizure condition began to improve, we were able to decrease the levels of 2 of her anticonvulsants that cause severe depression. We've heard her laugh and giggle all the time. Cannot tell you what that means as a parent. Most of the time, she sleeps through the night, which again, cannot tell you what that means after 40 years. Unexpectedly, her urinary tract infections have almost disappeared. Before she was on CBD, she was on antibiotics every 3 weeks. After starting CBD, we have not had a urinary tract infection in 3 years. Yeah, that's amazing too. She has 17 medical specialists, and they're all amazed at how well she has done. You know, as her mother, I am so incredibly grateful to Representative Click, to Senator Campbell, to the entire Texas legislature. Your office has seen me multiple times, and especially to the governor for allowing this life-transforming medicine to be available to my daughter. My hope and prayer, of course, is that all of those others who are still needlessly suffering would be able to have access to that. I'm excited to hear and anxious to hear an update about what is happening at the federal level. But as Texas moves to expand new cannabis products for treatment of multiple disease states, including PTSD, my concern always is that we will have proper medical testing, tracking, certification, and validation of these products in order to ensure that the public safety and health is protected of all Texans. I'm encouraged to see what we're going to see today, and I'm encouraged that Vyripharm has the technology to ensure that Texas leads the nation in establishing the first pharmaceutical level of evaluation of novel cannabinoid products. Thank you so much for your time.
You know, if I can point out how the difficulties you face as a parent of a severely handicapped child. I have several friends that have this. It's your life's work. It takes over your life. And I want to point out something that's a true element of success, regardless of what your situation is. If you're going to be successful, you're going to be unstoppable. I want you to think about that. That doesn't always mean you're going to be popular. And when you start out, people are going to try to stop you. You have to be unstoppable to be successful. To truly be successful, you have to be unbeatable. And you have to be more than just what it takes to achieve the goal. You have to be more than that. Think about anybody that you know that is truly, remarkably successful. Now, this young lady was successful. She prevailed upon the Texas legislature to get this legislation. There was a lot of resistance. She got it through, and look what it's done for not just her. You see what I mean? More than, you have to be more than it takes. It helped so many other people that were victims of these types of conditions. So I'm encouraging you to be unstoppable in every area of your life to be successful. And you have to be more than what it takes, or you can't lead. If you don't lead, you have not reached your goal. You have to lead. You have to encourage others. You have to ignite others to be unstoppable. Think about the nation that we'd be living in if that's what we were doing. Sorry I went off script there, Dr. Jackson. Is that okay? All right. Hey, we've got another speaker I think that's very important. And he is unstoppable, and that was kind of my preamble to him. It's Toby Hamilton, Hamilton Box, Texas Medical Center Board Director. Please.
Thank you. You guys can hear me reasonably well, even in the back. Great, thank you. My name is Dr. Toby Hamilton. I'm a part of the community here at the Innovation Factory. My background is that I'm a boarded emergency medicine physician. Practiced for 11 plus years before I started doing some inventing. My very first invention was the micro hospital. I was practicing in a standard hospital in suburban Dallas and realized that this was an environment that was going to be difficult to sustain for the next 40 years of my career. Attempted to make changes inside of the hospital, and we were not successful in getting those done. So I read the book on how to build your own hospital and drew out some plans, about 3,000 square foot, and met with the state and got them to ultimately approve our plans for building the smallest hospitals the state of Texas has ever seen and ever will, because they changed the rules right after they let us build that first one. The end result of that for us is that the company that I built has over 20 hospitals in the state of Texas. We've got 8 in Dallas-Fort Worth, partnered with Baylor Scott & White. There's 8 in San Antonio, partnered with the Baptist Health System. We've got them in El Paso, partnered with the Hospitals of Providence, and we've got them with Memorial Hermann here in Houston. And so we've built a network of hospitals that account for over 400,000 visits annually inside of that hospital network, one of our first inventions. And one of the things that I realized as I was practicing there year after year was, number one, the ever-increasing number of young adults in particular that were showing up on our doorstep having taken these synthetic cannabinoids, the Delta 9s, the Delta Zeros, these things that are outside the scope of regulation. Somehow these things escape regulation. One of the things that we talk about here when I take you guys on a tour and I tell you about the inventions that we're doing, these inventions go through an extensive vetting process that takes usually a minimum of 3 years and sometimes as many as 10 years to ever come to market. We have to test them on small animals. We have to test them on medium-sized animals. We have to test them on big animals, and we have to test them on humans. This takes money and time, and if anything goes wrong anywhere along the way, we usually are stopped cold in our tracks and have to reset everything that we do. This is an extensive process to get drugs, to get products, and to get devices to the market. And so if you've never seen a patient come into the hospital after having taken too much of some of these synthetic cannabinoids, it's not a pretty sight. It almost looks as if they're having a mini seizure, like they're having a Tourette's type syndrome. They disconnect a little bit mentally and are unable to connect their thoughts and their processes, and they have usually twitch and some degree of neurologic symptoms when they show up in our ERs with these conditions. The notion that those drugs don't have to go through that same extensive vetting process just doesn't feel right when the rest of us have to go through these processes to get our products into the market. I would challenge each one of us here to consider the impact of those drugs. They're being sold right across the street right now at head shops. And you know what they're sold as? Incense. They sell it as if it's incense right next to the pipes. I've seen it myself. And most of us, we buy incense, we might burn incense. We certainly don't smoke it expecting to get neurological impacts. And that's what's happening today. There's head shops all over the city selling incense that are actually selling synthetic cannabinoids, and they're outside the scope of our regulation. Having seen that in our hospitals and the impact economically, not to mention the neurologic impact of the patients that are coming in, is something that we hope to draw attention to. And I've been working with Vyripharm here at the Innovation Center for the last few years on developing some of these products that can actually test these products before they go to market to make sure we know what's in them, we know what people are using them for, and can bring an end to this end around the FDA process. And so I just want to share with you guys how impactful those things are for those of us that are working in the space, and hopefully we can find a way to get these things regulated and bring the right products to market that are healthy, that are measured, that have been tested and taken care of appropriately. Thank you all for the time.
Fantastic. So one of the things that we went on a brief tour on the way in here was the robotics lab. You may have seen it when you walked in the door. Immediately to your left with all the robotics, kind of a RoboCop looking thing. That's not what's going on in there. Okay, they're making robots that we'll use to build pharmaceuticals and clean labs and things like that. Actually, the ABB Robotics for Healthcare Solutions partnership with Vyripharm. I think our friend Jose Collados, that just gave us a brief tour, is going to speak about this for a few minutes. Do you mind? Tell us about the partnership.
Very good. So I think you are managing the slides, but I can
You
start.
have to lean into the mic
Yes.
so they can hear you.
Perfect.
Right. Can y'all hear him okay?
Perfect. No, thanks for the opportunity to present. Well, we are ABB Robotics. We are part of a very large company, so we are more than 100,000 employees, 35,000 here in US, and almost 800 here in Houston, where we have the global headquarters for energy business, of course. And now we have the global headquarters for healthcare, which is a new business within ABB Robotics. So you look, well, we are really a global company with a global presence. Yes, we are a global company with a global presence, sorry about that. And we are starting a new venture in healthcare. So we are also been working and operating. ABB developed the first electrical robot, so the first industrial robot. We've been working for more than 50 years in robotics and in many industries. And we believe that healthcare is the new field, and life science is the new field of robotics. So robotics has been extensively being used in automotive, food and beverage, electronics lately, but our role is to really take the findings to what we have learned in other industries to support healthcare. And well, when we were trying to decide where we would start, well, quickly we came to the conclusion that we should start in US, just because 50% of the research and development expenditure in research and development for pharma is happening in US. And almost 45% of the medical device innovation is happening here also. Our expenditure is happening here. So we wanted to start in US. And we came to Houston after looking different places because we found it was the best place for us. And we have our global accelerator here. And the reason was the willingness of Texas Medical Center to bring technological companies to Houston. And this is what we are. And if we want to be in a new industry, even if we started several years ago, we need to learn and we need to have the insights. So the best way is to be within a hospital. And this is what we are trying to do here, and we are very grateful. And we've been hosted by Texas, Houston, and Texas Medical Center. So thanks very much about that. Yeah. And what we're doing here, well, here you have a video, and I really want to invite you to come to our space. It's always open. And it's one of the reasons why we are saying we need to get insights. So we love to have you visiting us. What we are doing here is really, we are innovating, so we are creating new products, and it's a very different way of working. Having a an innovation with a crystal ball, but we really want this feedback. This is very important for us. So our mission really is to bring all the learnings from other industries, what we learn working into healthcare in the best possible way. And really what we have learned is that the type of technology that we bring or the experience that we have will be very relevant in healthcare, life sciences, lab automation, and also logistics application. And this is what we are doing. And what you see here is different examples of what we are working on. But you can see them in our lab. So let's move forward. If we look at a complete process from pharma to patients, so there are different steps, and we believe that robotics and automation can really help in many different steps to really bring this faster and with best quality, with lower cost, and improve the availability of certain therapeutics. But today we are talking about quality control. And quality control, well, the reality is that the relation with Vyripharm and the relation, I met Jerry Bryan just in 2019 after relocating to Houston. I have a folder with all the projects and leads that we receive, and Vyripharm is the second. So it was the second company that came to us and tell us, hey, maybe this can, we can work together. And we are very happy that this is finally happening and that we are building this collaboration. And what our role in this collaboration is really we are being part of this quality process, and the challenge in this quality process is very labor intensive. So what we are doing here, the first step that we are working, we will be working in the quality lab. So when we think about the quality control for biopharma products, there are two steps in a quality lab. The first is the preparation. So the product needs to be prepared, needs to be labeled, needs to be registered, it needs to be cut and trimmed, and a lot of things need to happen. So an automation will be able to help there, but this is a very manual process, and it will be a very manual process most of the time. But what we are really working today is on the analysis. So once the product is prepared, it needs to go to the analyzer room. And this analysis, it takes several minutes, it takes almost 1 hour in some cases, depending on the analysis. So what we are going to do together with Vyripharm is that we will have an analyzer room that is going to work 24 hours, 7 days a week. So people will be able to work during the normal shift, so in one shift, but we will have the analyzer doing the preparation and supporting the preparation, but then we will have the analyzers running all the time. So we will really make use of this laboratory in the best possible way. And and our role really, we are working together with Vyripharm, so we will apply their process, the recipe, and automation will help keep the lab running, process all the samples and do the quality control in the best possible way, and very important, connect to the data information systems from Vyripharm. So that everything will be processed, will be connected, and you will have complete traceability. When we have traceability, we are able to understand, have more insights of the product. So when it was grown, which farm, what, and everything, what type of product it is, but also understand how can we improve the testing in the best possible way. So we will be learning as we do. And all this information will be very important.
The Congressman's going to have to go. So
yeah. Well, and this is just a view of the solution, and we are really excited to start this collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're on a short time frame here. Very quickly, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Jackson. He's got a few words for you about this legislative reception.
Hello, everyone. I would first like to thank all of you for coming out to the Texas Medical Center Innovation Institute. And I would like you to give TMC Innovation, the board members, the team here, a round of applause for hosting us here today. All right, there we go. Also, I would like to take a moment to thank those members of the Texas legislature who have shown so much courage as this new emerging industry is at our doorsteps. I think the genie is out of the bottle, and pretty soon, whether it's this year or in a couple of years, we will be having to answer the question of regulatory oversight for some of these novel psychoactives. So please give the members of the legislature a round of applause as well. And I know we're short for time, definitely want to acknowledge Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He has shown so much courage with what he's dealing with, but you know, he comes from good applause, and thanking him for coming out. So I won't take up much of the time, but I do want to talk on how important it is to evaluate, certify, and verify these novel products. Vyripharm has 3 patents that formulate a basic foundation for this industry. Now, currently states have cannabis programs, and I commend Texas for the Texas Compassionate Use Program. Definitely from what you heard from Lora, it is working. But now we must step in and bring this industry into the ecosystem of traditional pharmaceuticals. The Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world, has the access, the researchers, the know-how to make sure that these products are not only safe for our veterans, but also for the public in general. But more importantly, when you look at this industry, it actually touches every asset or every facet of the Texas legislature. Business and commerce, agriculture and livestock, public health and public safety, water, appropriations. How do we galvanize and garnish those revenues from this industry? We can't do it if we follow the model that's out there now. Finding what is in it as far as the level of THC, CBD, is not good enough from a pharmacological or medical standpoint. You can't have a medical program without accessing and capturing true medical data. The Texas Medical Center stands ready, Vyripharm stands ready to support the Texas legislature, to support our great Congressman Dan Crenshaw, and also to support the public health and public safety of Texans. Again, Vyripharm has over 60 patents, 3 of which are in this particular area. We have developed diagnostic tools to be able to evaluate how well these products actually work in our veterans and in our citizens of Texas, as well as the United States. Currently, Vyripharm is establishing our beta site laboratories, 2 of which is right here in the state of Texas, 1 of which is in Colorado. The other will be in California at a high-level institute. The next will be in New York, and the final 2 will be in Mississippi and Alabama. We've been working with the FDA to establish a footprint, a network of laboratories to capture that data, to find out what strain of marijuana, what strain of cannabinoids, what synthetic cannabinoids even works for a particular disease state. This is critical data that is not being accessed now. Currently, what we have is track and trace and RFID tags, which is fine, but no one can truly state claims on that. If we're going to give it to our veterans, if we're going to give it to our family members to battle cancer, PTSD, epilepsy, we're going to have to move to the next level. The legislature here in Texas has done a great job, and we support them 100%. But now it's time for the next generation, and Vyripharm stands ready to do that. And finally, this is just an image of how that process will work. Every asset or every facet of the supply chain, the data will be captured. So now the legislature, Texas, the Department of Public Safety, law enforcement will have a true data network in understanding where, how, when, how well these drugs are working in our citizens. Number 2, when we talk about Homeland Security, once this bill passes, or whenever it passes, either this year or in a couple of years, that's going to open the door for interstate trafficking. We have to be able to control our borders with the access of these drugs coming across, and the only way to do that is have a true regulatory oversight, a comprehensive regulatory oversight, and Vyripharm already has those patents. It's already federal, so the Texas legislature does not have to worry about creating a new wheel. It's already there protecting them for risk mitigation. So I'm going to stop now and open the podium to our keynote speaker, who is far more important than I am. And I am so excited to have him here. He has shown the ability to show strength as we move forward in evaluating these novel drugs for our veterans. And I want to thank him for coming. And again, I want to thank you all for coming out. And if you have any questions, please take time to meet some of our members of the Vyripharm team who was here. And finally, I also want to give thanks to our CEO, Jerry Bryant, who is, I would say, a genius, but quietly kept. So if you have a chance to run into him, please pull his coattails and take about 5 minutes to hear some words from him. So I want to thank you guys and look forward to speaking with you and seeing you soon.
How are y'all doing? I'm supposed to give the keynote. I don't know how much of a keynote this will be, but I will share with you a few things that we've been working on and how we think legislatively and from a policy perspective about healthcare and especially healthcare innovation. Joe, thanks for inviting me and putting this on. Thank you all for your interest in this just important subject. Thank you all for your incredible work towards this, what truly helps people in a very profound way. Nobody likes our healthcare system, it seems, in America, and primarily because it's too damn expensive. And one of the ways out of that problem is fundamentally innovation. That's how you get out of most problems whatever the issue may be. And in that spirit, every year we do a Healthcare Innovation Summit, and I give an award named after my mom, Susan Carol Crenshaw, who died of cancer when I was 10. And the reason I name it after her is because she was patient number 1 for Taxol, this experimental treatment in the early 90s, and which eventually became Taxotere, a very important drug for anyone who's ever had breast cancer. And last year we actually gave it to Billy Cohn, or this year we gave it to Billy Cohn, who is of course at J&J Labs here, J Labs and part of this innovation center. And for his work that has helped so many people. So we're really proud to be part of that space. And you find some really interesting things when we do these presentations. We have these innovators come up and present. I mean, you hear from, for instance, Hope Bioscience, where they're doing stem cell therapies that have actually helped people with Parkinson's who were completely immobile get up and walk on stage for our presentation. Really fascinating things that can happen with stem cells, just not researched enough, and the FDA just won't approve some of these treatments. We'll get to the FDA problems, which is fundamental to our problem here in a second. We've heard from Spark Biomedical. They have a non-intrusive, it's just a completely exterior electromagnetic stimulator that stimulates the right part of your brain that almost completely stops the symptoms of opioid addiction. And so they've got these testimonies from people who are completely addicted to opioids, just need it every single day, and then within 2 days they're like, I just feel fine, just from an electromagnetic stimulation. It's absolutely fascinating. They have trouble getting funding because CMS doesn't usually have funding categories for devices. So we'll get to how we're going to try and solve that problem here in a minute too. There's another FDA problem. Another person we've had, actually a good friend of mine, and she runs this company. She's like in her she's 30, 31, but runs this company. It has this invention called Intuitap, which basically is a sensor. It's a very simple device. It's a sensor that allows doctors to give an epidural injection and not miss. So imagine not getting stabbed in the spine 4 times. That would be really cool, I bet, especially when you're about to go into labor, let's say. So these amazing innovations that, frankly, are still kind of stuck in the process, mostly because of an FDA that has become so bureaucratic and so risk-averse, and also such a black hole of information that you can't even figure out where to go. Our innovators have to do yet another round of fundraising and get their investors on board to do another clinical trial because the FDA is like, I didn't like that one. Well, what don't you like about it? I don't know. That's the kind of answers they get. So FDA reform has to be a major priority legislatively. And there is some bipartisan agreement to that. Now look, when you look at the left and the right spectrum, obviously you probably know that I'm on the right. And so what does that generally mean? Besides the normal annoying political back and forth that you see every day about who's a worse person, okay, forget all that for a second. What's the real difference between the left and the right? And the real balance between the left and the right? Well, one of them is the right is generally more comfortable with risk. Okay, a little bit more freedom, which entails a little bit more risk. We want a little bit less regulation. We want more freedoms, and we'll just let the market society kind of figure that out. We entrust people to do that. The left is the opposite. They want a little less freedom because they want less risk. Okay, and that's a healthy balance, to be honest. But I think we're out of balance right now. I think the FDA is so risk averse that we're not innovating the way we need to innovate, and the bureaucracy is designed that way. As innovators, you want to get going. You want to get to that next step. A bureaucrat is much better off just saying, no, because if there's any risk, then I'm going to take the fall for it. I don't want to deal with that. And so there's a problem with the incentive structures there, and it absolutely needs reform. We can take small bites at the apple with the FDA. We do that through when we reauthorize user fee agreements, and a negotiation sort of happens between the industry and the FDA itself. Because the FDA takes user fees from pharmaceutical companies, from drug companies, from biomedical companies, where you basically pay to get your process done faster. Okay, that's fine. It's a decent thing, and then they renegotiate that every year and say, look, you need to make these changes. We were successful in getting some changes made in this recent user fee agreement negotiation, specifically around regenerative medicine. And telling the FDA, you've got to take some more steps here to actually reclassify, say, stem cell therapy. Because right now they're classifying stem cell therapy as if it's a drug, when in reality it's just your own cells that are recultured, reproduced, and then injected back into you. It's more like a bone marrow transplant than it is a new drug, but the FDA wants to treat it like a new drug. Again, almost just because they like being difficult, I swear, at this point. It's very frustrating. So we're taking small bites of the apple, but a lot more needs to be done. The balance is out of whack. You've got to move the balance towards a little bit more freedom, because you can have plenty of freedom and still have some safety. There's just unfortunately some people who believe that if one regulation is good, then 10 more must be better. That's obviously a bad philosophy, right? There's got to be a balance there. The other thing I mentioned too is what CMS does. So even if something gets through the FDA, you've got CMS that won't even categorize certain things and to allow payment for them, and therefore it can't get private funding because there's no profits incentive to do so. That's a problem too, something that needs to be addressed. One of the reasons I'm going to run out of here real quick after talk to you all is because I'm about to go to a meeting about ARPA-H. So ARPA-H is a recently authorized piece of legislation, very bipartisan, I think a really cool idea that is modeled after DARPA. People understand what DARPA is, the Defense Advanced Research and Production Agency. I'm not really, whatever, you know what DARPA is. It makes really cool stuff, but for defense. And so the idea was that you should do something similar for healthcare innovations, something similar to what you're seeing here in this kind of space, because you can get NIH funding. There's plenty of money out there for your basic sciences, right? They go to fund universities for basic science. So what common refrain you hear sometimes is like, the government makes all these drugs, and we fund the making of all these drugs, and so why are people paying $1,000 a pill for it? And on the surface, that seems like a good argument, but what people don't realize is that it actually takes billions of dollars to take it from basic science at a university to a commercialized product. So ARPA-H is now seeking to fill that void, right? Let's invest in these high risk but high reward, whether it's devices or drugs, whatever it might be, and help them get to commercialization, so help them get to that next step. And we're really trying to make sure that agency is then headquartered in Houston, right? And part of this wonderful, innovative ecosystem that we have here. I think with that, we could really see some really interesting breakthroughs in the future, especially since we just passed some legislation that will probably inhibit some pharmaceutical breakthroughs in the future, unfortunately, by doing price controls on drugs. That was unfortunately just passed in legislation very recently. And that will result in less new innovative cures, because if there's a price control on a drug and you have to take the price the government says you have to take, or face a 95% tax on your revenue, and yes, that's actually in the bill, then you're not going to invest that money. You're going to invest in much safer investments. And that's a problem when we're talking about innovation. Hopefully that's countered to an extent by ARPA-H, which is about $40 billion in funding. And I think there's while our healthcare system is too expensive right now, it is also true that we have the best healthcare system. This is the place where you can get the best healthcare. America is the place where you get the best healthcare. Right? You travel to Mexico to get healthcare if you need something that is a well-known drug or device or treatment, well-known, very well established, and it's just cheaper. But if you've got a rare form of cancer, you're coming to Houston. And so you don't want to lose that competitive edge. America is the only one with that competitive edge, actually. We're the only ones truly innovating on a constant basis. And we need to get out of our own way so that we do it better, and we also can't lose it. And so there's got to be this balance, legislatively speaking, from a policy perspective on how we do this. Because, look, some want to call healthcare a right. And it might seem like splitting hairs, but it's not quite a right, but it is a need. It is a need, and we do have an interest in everyone having access to good quality healthcare. I can agree with my Democrat friends on that. Is it a right? No, because if you make something a right, then you also have to force someone else to give you that thing, right? So now you've got a problem with infringement on basic freedoms, but it's a need. And so how do we create that safety net? How do we create that need? And you do it in ways like with Hamilton Healthcare. That was also one of our presenters at a recent summit that we did for healthcare innovation. And you get access to healthcare out there much cheaper. And then you've got to innovate how you actually pay for that. So we've also had presentations on companies that have created basically a debit card that is associated with your insurance that you then pay for healthcare with. We need to simplify the financial part of healthcare to a massive extent if we're going to be truly innovative. And we have to do things like give everyone a health savings account. Put the money in that, attach it to a debit card, make this your payment system from now on. Don't treat, and I tell people, imagine if we treated the way we deliver food to the poor, imagine if we did it the same way we deliver healthcare. So basically, you would go into the grocery store, there would be no prices on anything. You would take whatever you want. You would go to the cashier and they would say, well, actually, you can't even buy the tomato until you buy the cucumber. Why? Because, I don't know, that's just what the coding is. And then you get out, and maybe they'll charge you a little bit later, but for the moment they'll charge a third party and then maybe bill you later. You really have no idea how much you're going to end up paying for your groceries. That'd be a really strange way to deliver food to people, but it's not what we do. Instead, we deliver them a voucher in the form of food stamps, and they go and pick out what they want, and they can use their own consumer instincts to determine what has more value and what doesn't, and then they leave. You need to think about healthcare the same way in principle. It's obviously far more complicated than just getting food, but you need to think about it in principle the same way from a legislative standpoint if we're ever going to innovate our way out of the financial mess that our healthcare system is. And so with those thoughts, I'll leave you and wish me luck as we try to strategize with other good Houstonians on how to get ARPA-H here, and I think really I think that would be fantastic for this place and for Houston in general and for America. So thank you all for doing this, and it's great to see you all.
And Congressman Crenshaw, thank you again so much for being here. We ran him over, we ran out of time. Please let's just thank him again as he's heading out the door. So we're about to conclude. In summary, there's a little bit of housekeeping I have to do. First and foremost, it is Becky Hyatt's birthday. Becky Hyatt is the one that provided the desserts over there, B&D Goodies. There she is. Hey, Becky. Okay. And I don't know if it was Harrison or Brandon that wanted to sing Happy Birthday a cappella from your chair. Which one of you said you were going to take your shirt off? I can't remember. Okay. All right. Right. If you have not had the Oreo crusted cake balls over there, you've made a huge mistake, and you should stampede and fight it out, okay? Because they're fantastic. So I can't say enough good things about them, right? Yeah. Elias knows, okay. Let's see, there's another thing that's important. I don't know if y'all know that we have an election coming up. Y'all heard anything about that? Anybody? Good. Oh, Joni. So anybody that wants to know anything about the election, talk to Joni. No, I'm just kidding. Now, we really do have an election coming up, and we've got a town, we've got a community here. I'm going to show you something that unites every single one of us. 10,166 auto thefts since January 1st through August 1st in the greater Houston area. 10,000. Over 4,400 burglaries, home burglaries. You're in your home, maybe you're not burglarized. 8,000 assaults. These numbers that I'm reading to you are double, triple, quadruple 4 years ago. Go look it up. There's over 500 sexual assaults, 273 murders, 188 murders by those out on bond. That means they're already violent offenders, they're out on bond. I'm not reading these stats because I expect for you to remember them. I just want you to realize what this means in your community, our community, your neighbors, your family, your school, the stores you go to, the people you do business with. I want you to realize this is our community. We've let this happen, and we have to stop it. We have to stop it. 450 capital murder cases backlogged. These people aren't getting, they're not getting tried for committing murder. Many of them, it's their third, fourth case. They're out on bond. How crazy is this? Your mom goes shopping. Your children are walking home from school. Your best friend's getting his car washed. Going through the power wash. Right? Just had one killed going through the power wash because he didn't give the homeless guy he thought was homeless enough money. That was a setup. It's crazy. In 2016, there were 33 violent offenders out on bond. Now, in a county like Harris County, that doesn't sound like a lot of people. We can keep track on 33 people. Don't you think we can keep track on 33 people that are violent offenders out on bond? There's 1,000 of them out now. Violent offenders, repeat offenders out on bond, no or low bond. There's only one way that is going to stop, and that's only going to stop if we fix the courts. And I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to pretend to do that. I'm giving you the facts. I know you're intelligent people. I want you to talk to everyone you know. Force this conversation. Get them to the polls. Think through the solution. If you've already thought through the solution and you know what we need to do, I'm going to recommend that you donate to a fund for judges that will execute the laws on the books of the state of Texas and keep dangerous criminals in prison and not let them out on bond. If you want to know where that fund is, because we need billboards, we need radio advertising to get conservative judges in that will keep the criminals in jail and protect our families. If you want to know where that is, you can go to the BIZPAC website, bizpac.us. We've entered into an agreement with Village Republican Women. Joni is on the board over there. You can talk to her about it. You may have seen something on your table. And I will not apologize for asking everyone to secure this community and restore integrity. Nothing destroys business like crime. Nothing is more disruptive than having your car, catalytic converter, stolen. Your friend raped. They don't come to work, you know, when they get raped. We've seen this happen. I've seen this happen to friends, and I've had enough of it. I don't know about you. So I encourage you to vote and to be prepared and to think it through. There we go. So let's talk about something happy. Are y'all ready? I have had the great pleasure of knowing my friend Elias Jackson for many years. At the beginning of BIZPAC 4 years ago, maybe a little more, Dr. Jackson came to a reception that we had talking about this subject. And what you came to today, this first of its kind legislative reception for public safety, this was envisioned then, and this man has been unstoppable. He's been unbeatable. He's been unabashed. He has outworked me and humbled me to get to the Capitol more than I already get to the Capitol, to meet with legislators and their staff, and he was always there coaching along the way who we needed to meet with, what doors we needed to get open, and he's such a humble guy. I encourage each of you, thank him for what he's done, thank you for what he's led, thank you for the company Vyripharm that has put this together. If you don't understand everything about Vyripharm, please, whatever you do, talk to Phil, talk to Dr. Jackson, where's Jerry? Where's Jerry? I think Jerry, there's a whole, if you're with Vyripharm, raise your hand. Okay, you see these people? These are the ones that you talk to about Vyripharm, because they are in the business of changing your life for the better and changing medical treatment for the better. Is there anything else you'd like me to add? I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you. And thank you, Vyripharm and Dr. Jackson, for having this first of its kind event. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for coming out, and can we give a round of applause for all of our presenters today? And please feel free to enjoy yourself. Let's Mix Mingo Network, and I look forward to meeting and speaking to you all and seeing you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.